This year I've joined 3 fantasy football leagues, 2 of which are paid, 1 just for fun, but regardless, the object of the season is to win 3 titles. Weeks 1 through 5 was definitely a roller coaster, unexpected, a lot of great wins, and a lot of stupid decisions. This is Conquering Fantasy Football, Episode 1. League number 3 is a Indianapolis Pro PPR league that I joined literally 2 minutes before the draft started, and at the very least, I will win a championship in this league at the end of the season. I'm not really worried about it that much. My opening week roster was Justin Herbert at quarterback, Bijan Robinson with Atlanta, Tony Pollard with my Dallas Cowboys, DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, Dallas Goedert at tight end, Brandon Cooks in my flex spot, the San Francisco 49ers as my defense, and Justin Tucker as my kicker. I cruised in week 1 to victory. Led by my quarterback and my running backs, I won week 1 111 to 100. Take that, big booty Bram. In week 2, again led behind a strong quarterback play and strong running back play. I sailed to a 132-108 win, but this time I dropped Brandon Cooks in my flex slot and I added Laporta. All it took for me was to see one game of Laporta for the Detroit Lions to know that he was the real deal and he would be the best tight end this season, so I picked him up immediately. But in week 2, I wasn't quite ready to give up on Dallas Goedert, and I didn't really feel like I had a stronger flex than Laporta at the time, so I went with the 2 tight end game plan, which normally doesn't work too often, but this week it did. Week 3, I sailed again to another easy victory, winning 143 to 116. Deebo Samuel and Laporta both again had a really big week. I went back to only using 1 tight end, and in my flex spot I picked up Keon Williams for the Los Angeles Rams, which ended up being a really great decision on my part because the next week Keon Williams put up 27. However, I lost 148 to 106 to a team called Team Joe Blow. Now a lot of this was because Deebo Samuel got hurt against the Arizona Cardinals, so he only put up 0.6 points. And on the other side, I was going up against Kamara, who had 21 points, Justin Jefferson, who had 26 points, Mark Andrews, who had 25 points, and A.J. Brown, who had 38 points. Kind of hard to win in those circumstances, but I'm pretty confident if I ever play Team Joe Blow again, especially in the playoffs, I'll get the W. Now, Week 5 was unfortunate because Justin Herbert, my quarterback who's been strong all season long, had a bye week, and I didn't have a backup quarterback, so I picked up Jordan Love. Has arguably up to this point been one of the best quarterbacks in fantasy football, so I was shocked to find him in the waiver wire. His lowest point total this season was 17, and that was even in a terrible game, so I figured, hey, he's as good as an option as I'm going to find. Literally came down to Jordan Love on Monday Night Football. I was down 14 points. I literally just needed him to score 15 points, and I would have won, but instead, he gave me 5. I lost 105 to 92. Another team I probably should beat and probably will beat when I play them again down the line. And this Bulldogs team currently is the best team in this league at 4-1, but I'm pretty confident even though I am 3-2, I could have easily been 5-0. Pretty confident about League 3. League number 2 is where things get a little bit more personal for me. The stakes are higher because this is a pot league, meaning if I win at the end of the season, I do get a cash prize of $200. Nothing crazy, but hey, that's 1 ticket to a Cowboys game in the nosebleed seat, so. Plus, this league is filled with people from my old high school, so there's also that little personal edge to it. Now, here's the kicker with this one. Our league admin, John, I'm looking at you, he told me our draft was at 8 p.m. So I went and got a massage about an hour and a half before our draft. I came back home ready to draft my team, ready to win and dominate, only to find out the draft had already happened. He gave me the wrong time. Instead of panicking, I told John, hey, that's okay. Watch me beat you all with an ESPN auto-drafted team. So I made no changes. I rolled with whatever ESPN auto-drafted for me. And honestly, even though I was talking some smack about winning the league with an auto-drafted team, I was pretty confident I was only going to win 2 games this season. My Week 1 roster was Dak Prescott of my Dallas Cowboys, Austin Eckler, Joe Mixon, DK Metcalf again, DeAndre Hopkins as my second receiver, which isn't great, Dallas Goedert at tight end again, Godwin from Tampa Bay Buccaneers in my flex, the Dallas defense, go Cowboys, and Evan McPherson as my kicker. The problem with this lineup, though, is I had no depth. ESPN auto-drafted me 3 quarterbacks, Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, and Daniel Jones. Not exactly ideal. ESPN did give me 1 extra running back, Pernine from the Denver Broncos. I don't even know if I'm saying his name correctly. It's one of those names that looks simple, but I feel like I'm mispronouncing it. So from this point on, I'm just going to be a little bit disrespectful and say the Denver Broncos backup running back. Anyway, like I said, I thought I was going to start 0-1 in week 1, but instead I won 126 to 124. How did that happen? Well, my last player to play this Sunday night was the Dallas Cowboys defense. They were playing the New York Giants on Sunday Night Football. At this point, I was down by 40, and ESPN had given me a 2% chance at winning. Well, the Dallas Cowboys that night had the greatest defensive game ever, giving me 43 points. 43 from a defense! And I walked out of week 1 1-0. And I followed that performance in week 2 with a 103-92 win, which shocked me because Austin Eckler, arguably my best player, went down in week 1. And I had to start the Denver Broncos backup running back who only got me 5 points. But the Dallas defense again had a solid week, putting up 18 points. Dak Prescott had a decent game, putting up 19 points. And despite Tyler Lockett going for 25 on the other side, and Kenneth Walker going for 18, somehow pulled out the win. And now I'm 2-0, which matches the total amount of wins I thought I was going to have at the end of the season with an ESPN auto-drafted team. Now, week 3 really broke my heart. I lost 93-92, and it's only because the Dallas Cowboys defense against the Arizona Cardinals put up -1 points. After scoring 43 points, 18 points, they put up -1. That hurt. That really hurt. Don't worry, Wallers. I'm coming for you the next time we face off. I'm not losing. Week 4, I bounced right back with a 116-81 win. It wasn't even close. It truly was the battle of the mid-running backs, as my opponent pointed out in his team name that week, as both our starting running backs put up less than 10 points. But the difference for me was the Dallas defense responded after scoring -1 points, putting up 28, and Chris Godwin gave me 19 points. Mike Evans went down, so Tampa Bay Buccaneers had no choice but to go to Chris Godwin. But unfortunately for the battle of the mid-running backs, he had Mike Evans as his flex. So now I've officially surpassed the amount of wins I thought I was going to have for the entire season after just 4 weeks. However, in week 5, I got absolutely obliterated, 139-93. What went wrong? Well, Dak Prescott only put up 4 points against the San Francisco 49ers, and my Cowboys defense gave me -2.5 points. But can't really blame the defense too much on this one, because on the other side, their defense also scored -2.5 points. I don't think I've ever seen that before in fantasy football. Now, I was done with the Denver Broncos backup running back at this point, so I dropped him and picked up Spears from the Tennessee Titans, who did give me 16 points. He only had 34 yards, but he did find his way into the end zone, which I was banking on. And the ironic part was, on the other side, they ended up picking up the Denver Broncos backup running back, who conveniently scored 11 points for them, not being able to pass 5 for me. But the difference for them, the reason why they kicked my butt so badly, was because Sam Howell scored 25 points. Again, Dak for me only had 4 points. They also had DJ Moore, who put up 49 points, and George Kittle, who had his best game of his career against the Cowboys, who put up 27 points. But in week 6, I am projected to lose 120-114, so we'll see what happens. In League 2, I currently find myself in a 7-way tie for second place at 3-2. Now, League 1 is where things get personal for me. If I'm only allowed to win one league this year, it has to be this one. It has to. Not only is this the biggest prize pot for winning a championship, but this is my brother-in-law's league. This is the league he so graciously allowed me to join after me telling him that I'm good at fantasy football. And the first 2 years in this league, I've been absolutely obliterated. I cannot have that happen this year. I have to win, and I have to beat him because Kyle, my brother-in-law, likes to bully me during family game nights. I have to beat Kyle, which is why my team name this year is better than Kyle. So in this league, I had the 2nd overall pick, so I personally feel like I drafted really well. My week 1 lineup was 2 at quarterback, Travis Etienne at running back, Kenneth Walker at running back, Jamar Chase, AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert again, Calvin Ridley, the New York Jets defense, and Butker as my kicker. And in week 1, this team absolutely dominated, despite Dallas Goedert only scoring 0 points. I won 135-110, and man did I feel good. Tua put up 27 points, Travis Etienne had 21, Kenneth Walker only had 10, but that's okay. Jamar Chase oddly only had 9, while A.J. Brown had 14. The New York Jets defense put up 20 despite playing Buffalo, and Butker gave me 8 points. So after week 1, I'm feeling incredible going into week 2. I make no changes, and I got smacked. I lost 165 to 69. I almost lost by 100 points. What happened? Travis Etienne only had 6 points. Kenneth Walker had a great game. He had 18 points. But Jamar Chase, again, 8 points. A.J. Brown, 6 points. Dallas Goedert, 8 points. Calvin Ridley, 5 points. The New York Jets defense, -1 points. And Butker was 5. I got absolutely smacked. I'm not panicking. I know Jamar Chase and A.J. Brown are going to have a great season. Just have to give it time. But I am severely worried about my tight end position. Dallas Goedert has produced in the past. However, watching the first 2 Philadelphia Eagles games, didn't really seem like he fit in their offense very well. And like I said earlier when talking about League 3, I'm incredibly high on Sam Laporta. I was able to get him in League 3. I couldn't get him in League 2, but I was able to get him in League 1. I also noticed that Hunter Henry was having a great season, so I decided to pick him up as well. He had an incredible first 2 games of the season. So week 3, I had a decision to make. Do I start Hunter Henry or do I start Samuel Laporta? And Hunter Henry isn't a rookie. He's a veteran now. He's probably going to be consistent, maybe. So I decided, you know what? In League 1, I'm going to start Hunter Henry. And boy, was that a mistake, because week 3, Hunter Henry had 3 points, while Laporta on my bench had 22. I was going to be so mad if I was 1-2 because I decided to start Henry over Laporta. It truly looked like it was going that way, but I pulled off a win, 149 to 145. This was another game where it came down to my last 2 players on my roster, Jamar Chase and A.J. Brown. And at this point, I had a 7% chance of winning, but thank God they both had their best game yet. Jamar Chase put up 26, A.J. Brown put up 22, and I was able to squeak by and be 2-1 in the season. Week 3, though, is when I made my first major change because I knew I had a major weakness in the flex position, so I proposed a trade. It was a risky one. I think it was worth it. After Arcane put up 50 points in week 3, I really tried my best to pick him up in the waiver wire. I wasn't able to, so instead, I traded for him because, man, watching that kid play, he is a special talent. I made a pretty massive trade, one which many people in our league criticized, but I traded Travis Etienne and I traded Calvin Ridley for Arcane and James Conner of the Arizona Cardinals. Now, in the fantasy space, James Conner was outscoring Travis Etienne, so I felt like it was an improvement, and Arcane was bonus points because obviously I'm going to accept a high-scoring running back over a receiver in a flex spot that couldn't score that well. I knew that I was in a pretty good position. However, for some reason, despite making this trade, I wasn't ready to put Arcane in my starting lineup, and instead I put Myers in my flex position, the receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders, thinking, hey, Myers has also had a good season so far. He's probably a safer bet just in case Arcane was a fluke. Plus, I wasn't even sure how much Arcane would even play behind Mozart. Big mistake because Arcane on my bench had 27 points and Myers only scored 5. I got absolutely smacked this week, 173 to 117. Even if Arcane played, I would have lost. Now, in my defense, I was playing our most stacked team in our league. On the other side, he had Herbert, McCaffrey, St. Brown, Keenan Allen, Engram, Najee Harris. I mean, he's absolutely stacked. And so going into week 5, I was trying to think of creative trades I could make. I knew I had to go through him in order to make this league's final and truly beat Kyle and, justify my namesake this year. So before week 5 kicked off, I made a trade, and it was a pretty ballsy trade, which isn't a bad thing until I realized during the events of week 5 that I had finally assembled the perfect roster, and I'm about to blow it up. I won week 5, 182 to 97, absolutely dominating. And this is even with James Conner getting hurt against the Cincinnati Bengals and only scoring 4 points. 2 had 16, Arcane had 21 points, Jamar Chase had 52 points, A.J. Brown 18, Laporta 19, Myers in my flex position had 20, New York Jets had 18, and Butker had 10. It was the perfect week outside James Conner getting hurt. But like I said, before I saw how week 5 unfolded, I committed to a trade that I really regret. And on top of that, Arcane and James Conner on the exact same day were placed on injury reserve. I don't know what week 6 is going to look like for me, which led me to make another monster trade. So I went from week 5 having the perfect lineup to having to blow it all up in week 6. I guess you'll have to hit that follow button and see what happens.